Hi, I'm so glad you're here. Whether someone sent you this episode or you've been listening since the beginning, thank you so much for being on this journey with me. I'm Bridget, and this is Just Call Me Bridget podcast, where we honestly talk about what it really takes to build a life in Australia. Please share it with someone else. It really helps the podcast to grow and reach more people who might need this information. Let's get into today's episode. Welcome back to another episode of Just Call Me Bridget podcast. Honestly, I am so excited for today's episode. If you are someone who is in their Australian journey or in your PR or you are on your sponsor visa and you are starting to look at buying a property in Australia while still being on a visa, this episode is for you. Next to me, I have Boston Cable, who is a buyer's agent at Verve Buyers Agency in Perth. And literally he is going to take us through from how everything works with buying a property. He also deals with a lot of off-market properties. He'll tell us all about how to navigate FIRB and understanding what we need to know when you are buying a property on a visa. Welcome to the podcast, Boston. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here. Have a go.
So we already spoke a little about off camera, and I find it so interesting, your story. Do you want to take our listeners a little bit through how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, 100%. And it's a bit of a unique story of how I kind of got to where I am and what I'm doing. And it really starts from straight after high school. Didn't want to go to uni. I did the ATAR, did the whole pathway, got the scholarship offer to go do engineering, and I wasn't sure that that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, and didn't really want to commit 6 years to something I wasn't 100% certain on. So really wanted to try out sales. So got the first job that I could, selling solar panels door to door.
Where do you even reckon that sales where did that come to you?
As a kid, I was always very entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
I started out flipping sneakers. I bought
really?
shoes, sold sneakers. Did that until I was 16, and then after that, got into stocks. Started day trading stocks, and then hit 18. Had about $40,000 from those endeavors, which was great. For an 18-year-old, I felt like I was rich.
Yeah.
And then from there, got into a sales job. Wanted to go down that route. Learn about it, see what I could do from there, do the whole entrepreneurial thing, because every entrepreneur did some form of sales and were good at sales, which I thought was a good skill to have. So started doing door to door. That absolutely sucked when it's 40 degrees outside and you're walking around trying to knock on people's doors. No one wants someone at their front door.
Oh my God, you must have so many crazy stories from people that what they told you from that door.
Yeah, you can kind of guess what they would have said. And it wasn't polite ever. Didn't do very well out of that, but then I got a job at a company which basically sold off-plan homes as investments. Not the greatest investment advice, but got a job there, moved over to Melbourne, started working out of there. I was there for 2 months, absolutely hated it. Came back to Perth, and then started at a builder and started selling house and land packages there. Was working there for just over 12 months. And then started my own company trying to flip properties with other people's money. I had a couple of people that I bumped into in Melbourne. They said they would fund the projects. Then every time I sent them a project in Perth, it was like, here's the feasibility, here's everything. They would take about a month to say yes to anything.
Oh, okay.
Over a month, the property's gone.
Yeah.
So then I started reaching out to Perth-based investors and met a guy named Lachlan Delahunty. And had a chat with him, and he said, yeah, I'll fund the projects, and sent him a few opportunities, and he offered me a job to work for him full time and do those flips on the side. So
wow.
That's where I've been ever since.
Wow. Did that entrepreneurship sort of gene come to you on its own sort of through like social media, or were your parents sort of influenced, or?
Parents definitely weren't
No.
influencing that one. My dad does floor coverings actually, so carpets.
Okay.
And my mum works as an anesthetic tech, so puts people to sleep in the hospital. So no real entrepreneurial gene that came through, but very influenced by social media and things I was seeing on YouTube, and just the constant want to learn about new things and really a desire to make money was a real driving factor when I was a kid. So yeah, that's kind of what pushed me to get into this line of work.
Do you think it's hard to keep going? Because I imagine if your first job was door to door, how do you keep your stamina going to like keep going and keep going? Because you were quite young at that age as well. And I imagine there's not many people that choose that road. So it must be quite hard, you know, like with your training, how to even, you know, actually get them talking.
Yeah.
How did you keep going? What drove you?
It takes a lot of determination and a real will to get better at what you're doing and take everything as a learning experience, because you're not going to be good from the start. You can have all the scripts and everything you want in the world and try and mimic something that someone else has done, but you really have to just find what works for you. And I do a lot of training with some of the guys in the office, and you have to mold yourself off of everything that you're learning. Do a lot of lead calling, initial meetings, things like that with the guys in the office, and I will do something very different to how someone else in the office needs to do and what's best for them and their personality. But you have to be true to yourself, because there's no script that's going to work for you, because if you come in robotic and reading off of a page, it's going to come across that way.
Yeah.
But if you're confident in the person that you are and what you know and your understanding of things, then that's what really makes good salespeople, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So if you listen to like Alex Hormozy or someone like this, you cringed a bit.
No, I actually love Alex Hormozy, but yeah, you can listen to all the inspirational works and everything that you want. Alex Hormozy is great for building businesses, everything like that, and he found sales methods that work for him. He rocks a singlet and thongs.
Yeah.
Didn't work for me.
Yeah.
Didn't try it, but
Okay.
but don't think that's my personality and my style. But yeah, and you can get all of those influences, but it really just takes repetitions, because that's the hardest thing for a lot of people, is that jump to say, this is what I want to do, this is what my goals are. But really it just comes back to doing those hard yards at the start to get to those points where it starts to become easy.
Do you feel like real estate now is your sort of niche, and is that the place that you are like, oh my God, this is where I want to stay?
Yeah, I've put a lot of time into studying real estate and learning about everything that I can and just absorbing as much knowledge as I can. It's been great being surrounded by people that have been so well educated and been in industries for such a long time. I can see myself doing this forever, whether that's in buyers agency work or going more down the route of flipping properties, developments, that sort of thing. It's always going to be in the niche of real estate.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about a little of literally your day-to-day, because I told you this off camera before. So a lot of Europeans, who probably all of my listeners are Europeans, so we have only one agent that's going to do everything from, you know, start to finish. And in Australia, like, we have buyers agents, sellers agents, and, you know, all of these different people are doing the house viewings and so on. So what is a buyer's agent, and what does it involve?
Yeah, so a buyer's agent is essentially the same as a selling agent, but instead of representing the seller, and a seller's agent will be trying to get the best price for the seller. Every buyer that's coming through, they're trying to get them to pay as much money as possible, because that's what they're paid to do.
Yeah.
As my job as a buyer's agent, I'm trying to purchase that property for the lowest price possible. And I'm completely retained by the buyer and working in the buyer's best interest. That's the competition in the transaction.
Yeah.
Is, even though I'm friendly with all of the selling agents out there, my job is to represent my buyer and purchase that property for the best price possible.
Okay. What do you reckon, have you seen from the market, the people that decide to not go with an agent? Are they losing in the final purchase price a lot? Like, is it so worth getting a buyer's agent?
Yeah, so obviously you can do it yourself.
Yeah.
It's the same process. You go through, pick a property you like and pay the dollar that you want to purchase it for. What I provide in those situations is confidence around pricing, because what you're seeing at the moment is it's manic, and you've got 20 people placing offers on the same property, and it will just be like, okay, if we want this property, we've got to pay X. You don't know if it's actually worth that. And it's so difficult to have that collated sales evidence of we're actually making a good decision and this is what the property's worth, we're picking up for a good price. As an average buyer, you can pick up those properties, but you're not going to have confidence around we're buying this well, or we're buying this at a good price, or we're buying in the right area, or even knowing if there's housing commission around, if there's developments going on around, what the property's going to look like in 10 years. That's research that we do in the background, that when we're working with a client, all they have to worry about is if they actually like the feel of the home. We're doing all of the research on what the property's worth, if there's anything untoward that you should know about with the property.
Yeah.
It takes the stress out of the process, because so many people are stuck in that bubble where they're going out to home opens just uncertain of what to do, what to offer, how to get the property, and then even in that situation they decide we do like the property, but there's 20 other people that also like the property. We're able to set ourselves apart in those transactions because of the relationships that I've built with the real estate agents and with the people that we're trying to buy these properties off, that we know how to position our offers to win in those competitive situations, if it's for the right price.
Yeah. What is the main point that you can get the price down? Is it through like building inspections, or just the overall like where the community is growing, or?
In terms of getting the price cheaper?
Yeah.
It all comes back to the negotiation. And with contracts and negotiations in Western Australia, the selling agent isn't able to disclose where the other offers are. We're able to get that transparency and pinpoint, okay, we can buy property A for 840, we can buy property B for 910, and put together that data that when we come to Monday, we're able to say option A, B or C, given these prices, pinpoint which one's going to be the better value, understanding everything that comes along with that property. Now, building inspections, you obviously have those in the contract. That covers you for anything major structural. So if a building inspector goes through, says the house is going to fall over in 2 weeks, then we're able to be covered for that and anything pest and termite. If something comes up on those reports, we're able to get the sellers to fix those items. And as a buyer's agent, I'm pretty well educated on what you're allowed to and what you're not allowed to push back on. That will push for everything to be fixed from the sellers when we get to that stage through the contract process.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to make it quite clear because, you know, we're soon going to be looking at getting our own house soon as well. And I'm like, oh my God, like, what do I need? Like, even before I need a good broker's dealer. But what all the paperwork involves actually when you're going to buy a property in WA?
Yep. So WA is actually the easiest state to buy a property in Australia, which is great as a buyer's agent. But the only real documentation that you need is, you don't even really need a pre-approval, but if you can get that pre-approval from your mortgage broker to say, this is what you're able to spend up to, this is your maximum borrowing capacity, that gives you that confidence that we're able to place offers on these properties up to this number. As long as you've got that, you're pretty well set, because in the contracts, and this is exclusive WA, you can put in your building inspection, you can put in a finance clause, you can put in a good working order, and they protect you pretty well throughout that contract process until you get your keys.
Okay.
Which is 45 to 60 days later.
What about if it's like a 90s or 70s old cottage and I want to buy that one off market?
Yeah, so you can still put in those conditions. So
it's all the time. Okay.
Yeah, so you can purchase it unless the people are selling the property as is. So that does happen sometimes if they know their house is pretty run down, or they don't want to do anything. It's a deceased estate, children who've inherited it, they don't want to deal with it, don't want to fix a light bulb. What you can do in that situation is get a building inspector to go and look at the property beforehand. Have to communicate with the selling agent to get access for those. But that's what we will do. If we're not able to protect our clients by having the right conditions, we will go and get a building inspection before we write that offer. And then we just purchase the property completely as is, because we know, okay, property's got these problems, it's going to cost us 30 grand to fix these problems. Given that we know that we've got to spend 30 grand when you guys get the keys, we're happy to pay X.
Yeah. Okay. I was also looking at, I'm so new to this. I'm such a greenie. So Can you just explain and make it like very simple on like stamp duties, LMIs, legal fees?
Yep.
So like what they are and how do I know like how much are they approximately going to be?
Yep. So stamp duty, if you work off about 4% of the purchase price, that will roughly be what your stamp duty is. But if you search up stamp duty calculator in Google and then put in your purchase price, that'll be able to tell you your exact stamp duty amount. It'll be right around 4%. And then LMI. So this is for any purchase that you do with less than a 20% deposit.
Okay.
So what that is lender's mortgage insurance. So that is actually insurance that the buyer pays for to protect the bank in case you're not able to make your repayments.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you have a deposit less than 20%, most banks will make you have lender's mortgage insurance. And that will vary if you factor in about 3% of the purchase price. You'll be safe with the LMI, depending on what your deposit is. If you're 20% deposits, then $0 for LMI. And then, what was the other one you mentioned there?
Legal fees?
Yeah, so if you factor in about $2,000 to $3,000 for legal fees, you'll be fine. Building inspection as well. You'll do that on most contracts and most purchases. You're looking at about $700 to $900 to get your building and pest inspection.
Okay. Have you heard of the builder inspection who's very famous on Instagram who nobody wants on their property? Is there any like red flags to actually look out for? Like, is there any such inspectors in Perth as well that you know, like if that dude goes in there, I know I'm not going to find out anything?
Yep. So those videos, I know the ones you're referencing.
Yeah. Site inspection, I think.
Yeah. So they're PCI inspections. So they're, when you're building a house, there's all building regulations that new homes and builds have to meet, basically. And what those inspections will do is they'll go through and make sure everything's being built to code and current codes and current standards, and they'll just test absolutely everything. When you're doing a building inspection on an established purchase, it's a little bit different. So what they're checking for is anything that's made structural. So if there's a beam, the bricks are falling over, something like that, they're not going to go out and test if what they'll do on a new build, if the screws are in the pipes correctly, something like that. Because when it's established, it just has to be to the codes of when it was built. They will flag if something's not to current building standards. So, for example...
Oh, so it will have to match when it was built, not to what the regulations are now.
Yeah, so all good building inspectors will flag this isn't up to current building standards. It's similar to balustrades. So you think of balustrades on a balcony where they've got the beams. The gaps used to not be as regulated. You could have them about this wide apart. Now they need to be about this wide apart because no one's baby wants to fall through the balustrades. So those building standards got changed, I believe, in the 90s, and then it got changed again in the 2010s. So all different building standards are being changed all the time, especially fire safety ratings, everything associated with that. So building inspection will note those items, but it doesn't mean that those items need to be fixed by the seller when you then settle on the property.
Okay. So, do you have to keep on top of all of these new regulations yourself, or is that something that is like taught to you by your employer?
It's something that, well, every single property that we purchase, we're getting a building inspection on. I read every single building inspection.
Okay, yeah.
I've read a lot of building inspections that I kind of just see the updates, and when there is something that needs to be fixed, I'm calling the building inspector and saying, hey mate, what's going on with this? And the building inspector I use loves to talk, so he'll over explain everything to me, and I quite like that because then you have some background knowledge as to what's going on, and then can communicate that to the client directly of, okay, this is what's going on with the property, this is what the seller's going to fix, this is what you guys need to fix when you move in, this is what you can fix in 2 years.
Yeah.
And just giving people that clarity, because a building report is extremely confusing to read.
Yeah.
They're quite long, all written pretty confusingly. But being able to have that concise plan of, okay, we're settling on this home from the 70s. We know there's going to be problems with the house. this is what we can push back on for the sellers to fix. This is what we're going to try and get fixed before you get the keys. This is what you need to fix straight away because this is going to become an issue when it hits winter. And then this is what you can leave for a couple of years, but just keep an eye on when this happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool though. I think it's quite an interesting, like no day is literally the same for you. Like you're always just moving around. What are your thoughts on the whole Australia's housing crisis at the moment?
Yeah, it's a hellstorm out there because what we've had for the last 3 to 5 years is a huge influx of people coming to Western Australia, population growth, but then also such a lack of new builds being complete that it was inevitable that we're going to get a housing shortage.
Yeah.
It was just by how much, and that number's proved to be a huge gap between how many houses are out there and how many people we have living in the state. That the supply just hasn't matched the demand, and really the government hasn't done anywhere near enough to meet these supplies. I'm all for people coming into the state, population growth within the states. I think Perth is a great place to live.
But the clients that you see, is it then mostly foreigners, would you say?
I deal with a lot of people living in Perth already. I have a lot of people that have relocated from other states for job opportunities, things like that. But a lot of my clientele are people that have bought properties in Perth. They're upgrading their primary place of residence. They're buying investment properties in Perth and more operating in that space. I haven't dealt too much with international. I'd say probably 5 or 6 clients that are relocating from international or buying investment properties from international as well.
Yeah, because that's interesting. You know, I'm not stating anything. I don't need any hatred comments. But when I've spoken to real estate people, they all say that it's mostly investors. And I was always like, I mean, that makes sense because I can't even buy a house. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So hopefully, I mean, we have a ban. Oh, actually, I do want to mention this. When I was researching for the podcast, that there is a buying, like temporary ban, literally, from last year, April until March 2027. That foreign persons are not able to buy existing homes. They can only do first home buyers. Do you reckon that will make a difference in the market or not really?
I don't think it'll make a huge difference. I would say the percentage of people actually buying from overseas, you have a lot of people that have relocated from Perth to places like Dubai, Singapore, Thailand, those sort of things, but they're still Australian citizens.
Yeah.
So they're still able to buy established properties in the markets. I would say the percentage of people that are overseas investors buying established properties was very low from what I've seen at least. Okay. I would say it's a very low percentage, 1 to 5% of all properties that were established being purchased.
Yeah.
So I don't see that making a huge effect on the property market or property availability. Over the last 3 years, it has been very largely investors, and that was Eastern States investors or people in the Perth market that have made money in property, now capitalising on that equity to buy more properties. And that's just because of a lot of the tax breaks and everything that's in place to incentivise investment within Australia, which is great to a level, but you also need to incentivise first home buyers. And it's the same thing as when they introduced the first home buyers grants and increase the limits to 850,000. They announced that was going to happen in 3 months. What happened was all of the investors just flooded in everything under 850k. The day that it got announced, I had 10 phone calls from previous clients like, hey, we need to buy another property under 850k. And it's like, okay, a little bit counterintuitive. It's all being bought up by investors because that was announced early rather than going straight into the marketplace. First home buyers, now you're able to buy these properties. Yeah. Hey, we're going to do this in July. Investors get to it early.
How do you see as, you know, a young entrepreneur yourself who, you know, because you would see a bit more of, you know, what Australians are, you know, going through, like young people. Do you feel like it's hard for young Australians to actually get a first home now, or
it's incredibly difficult comparative to how it was even 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's only gotten harder and is getting harder because what we've seen is such a growth in property prices and living expenses and inflation, but we haven't seen those growths in wages.
Yeah.
So what a joint income, an average joint income would get you 5 years ago is completely different to what a joint income would get you now.
Yeah.
And even getting to that 800, 850K borrowing capacity is extremely difficult for most people to be able to save for A, the deposits, but also have the income to support that level of mortgage. It's quite strenuous, the amount of repayments that you're having with that sort of mortgage. But even that, once you get to that level, the quality of house that you're getting isn't quite what people expect when they're spending $850,000.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, and it's no longer you're buying your first home and you plan to live there for 20 years. It's, okay, this will do for now and maybe one day we'll be able to upgrade.
Yeah.
It's a very different mindset, and it's a tough mindset to have of getting to that point where you're ready to buy a home. Hey, actually, this is what you get for your money. It's a bit of a slap in the face for a lot of young people trying to get into those markets.
Yeah. What is the timeline right now? Do you have an insight on like if a new build is ready to when it's like keys in hand?
Yep. So building, it really depends on the builder that you're going with and their availability for work. I've seen a lot of builders denying a lot of work recently, strictly because their margins haven't been high enough, different availabilities, and you really need to do your research, and it's very difficult to do that research at the moment because builders don't have to disclose a huge amount.
Okay.
There's not a lot of regulation in the building industry. I know because I used to work in the building space. So it can vary from builder to builder. Some can take 9 months, some can take 24 months to 36 months.
Wow, okay.
Yep, and it's really dependent on the product that you're building, but also the builder's availability and what your priority is for them. If it's a smaller builder that's only operating with 4 to 5 builds at one time, they can do them pretty quickly. But if that small builder is now dealing with 20 builds, you're going to be pushed down the totem pole, and you're going to be taking 24 to 36 months.
That's so long.
Yeah, my auntie built through. Well, I don't want to misquote which builder it was. Yeah, I won't mention it then.
Okay.
But yeah, my auntie recently went through it. She started her build, it was probably 4 years ago, and she got her keys about 6 months ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So 3.5 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
To finish a standard 2-story build.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now you've shared quite a lot when I was going through your Instagram on how you've been able to help investors when they've been sort of flipping apartments. So if I just bring out some of the numbers that you said that you did in 6 months, you were able to turn an apartment that was 350K into 575K. That is insane in 6 months. I mean, what percentage? Is that like pure profit, or is that minus all the stamp duties and minus all the fees?
So
that's the value of the...
That's the value of the property,
Okay.
and that's actually a property I bought for myself.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and it's just unique opportunities that come up in those spaces, and it's not all the time that you're buying so far below market value that you get those sort of uplifts. Obviously, the marketplace has done a huge amount of uplift, and that's just the advantage that I've had in the marketplace, that I'm seeing probably 20 off-market properties every single day.
Oh, wow. Okay.
In that, you're getting a large percentage of those. They've just been underquoted or underpriced or hard to value for whatever reason, and may need to sell immediately, may be pressured to sell. Different situations. That was a property that I just bought for 350K. It was a unique situation. I didn't even go through the property. I just had some photos from 10 years ago, and I was able to pick it up for 350, negotiate it directly, and yeah, there was no comparable sales in the area from the last 3 years. The seller was happy to take that 350. Then fast forward, I bought that in September. I settled on that last year, and since then there was a sale at 550, there was a sale at 660, and sale at 650 in the complex, all comparable quality. Yeah.
How quick do you have to be in this market today? Because as I said, like back home, if I said to my, real estate friends who are, working in Estonia, you can have even a rental apartment or a house up for a year almost, and it was just stand empty. That's a case that will not happen in Perth. That's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
So even when you're talking about apartments like this, I mean, I think, there's not many apartments in Perth anyway, but is it pretty much like, does it even matter which house, what are the neighbors, what condition is everything? Because we would like have to drive for many nights and like just suss out like what's going on in the neighborhood and so on, because it's so important, because you won't sell it. Do you reckon that's the case in Perth at all? Or you can be like pretty certain it's going to go anyway?
Oh, in the marketplace in the last 3 years, it has just been selling no matter what.
Yeah.
Which we're getting to a point in the market cycle now where you do have to be a lot more careful about those sort of items and making the right decisions. At the moment, we've still got such a short time frame from when we find out about the property to when the inspection is to when the decision is being made.
Yeah.
The average time on market for properties is between 7 and 9 days currently. So when they get launched online, hey, we're doing a home open in 3 days. They do one home open and it's sold. And that's
Wow.
the average. So that's including properties that have taken a month, 2 months, 3 months to sell. There's a lot of properties that are being listed up and sold within the same day.
Oh, wow.
That's all the properties I've bought for myself have made decisions on within 24 hours. It is such a huge jump for these sort of decisions because it isn't small amounts of money and it isn't small decisions, especially being a home that you're going to live in for the next 20 to 30 years.
Yeah.
But you're given such short time windows to be able to do your research on the property, the area, everything that goes along with it, but then also the price of that property. It's such a difficult task for the average person. This is what I do 24/7. That
Yeah.
it's easy for me to sympathise with someone that also works a 9 to 5. They have 30 minutes before they go to bed to look at realestate.com. It would be so tough out there to make decisions in those sort of timeframes and make the right decision because there's so many people out there that are just buying things for the sake of it and then getting 6 months into living in the home and absolutely hating it. Expensive jump if the properties aren't going up in price.
What's the insider talks at the moment? How long do you reckon this will continue?
Yep.
Or,
so,
I mean, Perth and Australia always has the immigration sort of tap that they can just turn into. And I don't think Australia ever has had an economic downhill at all, I think, ever in its history, really.
Oh, there have been recession times. 2008, there was a... Yeah. So it definitely does happen. And what we're seeing at the moment is there was interest rate increase this month.
Yeah.
2 days ago.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, so we've gone up to a 4.1% cash rate, which is relatively high. And we're anticipating there's going to be 1 to 3 more of those.
Okay.
1.25% increases, and that's what the banks are sort of pricing in. So we're going to start seeing borrowing to become more difficult, and that's what happens when the interest rates increase. And why they increase the interest rates is because money becomes less available, becomes less easy to access this sort of debt. But really what Perth is fueled by is supply and demand. And demand still is holding strong regardless of the interest rates. That I don't see an immediate turn point in the marketplace. What will change is the buyer sentiment, and people will start to become more picky with the properties that they're looking at. Rather than a property selling in 3 days, it may take 14 days. And that's what we'll start to slowly see. Right now we're sitting at 3,000 listings on market, which is nowhere near enough. That number will creep more towards the 5,000, 6,000 listings. I see that sort of happening in about 6 months' time. And what will happen there is you'll have more variety, more choice. I don't think it will immediately mean a huge pullback in property prices. I think that what we're seeing currently is certain assets are overpriced and some are still comparatively good value. So with the first home buyers grants, everything went to 850.
Yeah.
Everything that's sitting at that sort of 950k to 1 mil, 1.1 mil range is now comparatively good value. I think that those markets will still hold strong, and those properties that were just propped up by grants or just momentum moving in different markets, I think that those will be quite volatile. So it's just different assets, different locations, and different price movements. We won't see when you see a 20% increase in property prices across Western Australia, it's not every single property going up by 20%.
Yeah.
Does that turn off?
Yeah, we'll finish.
Yeah.
You can finish your thought.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not every single property increasing by 20%. It'll be some properties increasing by 40% and some increasing by 10%. And that will even out if we start to see a stagnation in that median price growth. There will still be properties that go up, and you'll see some properties go down, and they'll meet around that sort of median price. I don't think it'll be a general market pullback and negative growth.
Yeah. Okay, quick pause to this podcast. When I moved to Australia back in 2019, I had no idea what I was doing. Not just all the visa stuff and all the hard paperwork, but also the emotional side of it. No one really owed me anything, and I felt so alone and so overwhelmed with all of my feelings living on the other side of the world. This is why I created this 52-week guided journal called My First Year in Australia. If you're someone who is new to Australia, or you know someone who is coming to Australia, this is the perfect gift for yourself or someone else. The link is down in the description, so grab yours. Okay, tell me more about first home buyers. Like, would I, as a PR, I'm not PR at the moment, but if I will I still be available to get first home buyers deal?
Yeah. So the first home buyers grant that's in place now for established properties basically just allows people, permanent residents and citizens of Australia and New Zealand, to be able to purchase properties up to $850,000 with a 5% deposit. So with a 5% deposit, say on an $800,000 property, 5% deposit is $40,000 plus stamp duty.
That was 4%, yeah?
Yeah,
okay.
Roughly 4%. So for an $800,000 property, total fees, you're looking at about $72,000. And it tiers as you go down purchase prices. There's also stamp duty exemptions as you go to lower purchase prices. Whole different tangent. But, and what we were speaking about off air was the offset accounts, because you're asking about 5% deposit, then you have to pay interest on 95% of a loan. Now, what you can actually do, if you have hypothetically 20% deposit, you could do a 5% deposit. Banks don't like that sometimes. They want you to use the whole amount, but you can say you're doing renovations, have costs coming up, all different sorts of stuff, just to be able to use as little money going into those properties as possible. So you use a 5% deposit to purchase that property, and whatever cash you have left over, you put in what's called an offset account. Now, what an offset account does is, say you have a mortgage of $500,000, but you've got $100,000 sitting in an offset account, you only have to pay interest on the gap, which is then $400,000.
And if I increase that sum that's on that account, that decreases the amount
that
from
you pay
what?
Interest on.
Wow, that is so interesting.
Yeah, so that's calculated at the start of every month, and the more money that you have sitting in
so
offset.
at the sorry, I just interrupted. So, and you said I can pull money off from there as well.
Yeah.
And if it's calculated at the beginning of every month, like by the end I could pull some money out, but as soon as I put some back in, it would still be from that date.
Yeah, so whenever your interest repayments are, is when they calculate that amount. So for myself, I have recurring payments going into it. Sometimes it'll overpay because I've got money sitting in the offset. But yes, it just reduces the amount that you have to pay the interest on. And it's essentially a way of looking at your savings as returning you whatever your interest rate is. So 6.1% is probably the average at the moment. That any dollar that you have sitting in your offset account is saving you 6.1%.
Okay. What about if I buy a house using the first home buyer grant? Can I rent it out?
You have to have the intention to live in the property within the first 6 months of owning it. So if you buy a property that already has a tenant in it, that tenant has to move out within the first 6 months
Okay.
of owning the property. Then once you've reached 12 months living in the property, then you can rent it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you have to be legally signed like into that property. Like you'll have to have like your driver's license, like addresses changed and stuff, or not really? It's sort of like
If
a
you ever
grey
get
area, is
audited,
it?
you're supposed to have everything changed over. That's what they'll check is where your mail's going to, where your electricity bill's being paid from, where your driver's license is, those sort of things. So if you really wanted to do the dodgy, have all your bills being paid and then rent it out to someone, cash agreement, but
Yeah.
not legal advice, of course.
What is something that you see that people always sort of misunderstand when they're buying a property, or where they like are making mistakes?
Yeah, and I would say it's the location of the properties that you're getting into. People see a suburb and think it's the suburb that they're getting into, but every single suburb has good and bad pockets. Some have more bad pockets than good pockets, and some have more good pockets than bad pockets. But a lot of people just get caught up on that suburb and the prices, and they see this one in this suburb sold for 1.4. Now that means this property is worth 1.4, but there's so many nuances that go on between the suburbs. So for example, Scarborough, Doubleview, I do a lot. There's a huge difference between the properties north of Scarborough Beach Road comparative to the properties south of Scarborough Beach Road. Even if the two properties look the exact same, the neighbourhoods and the way the properties flow and the way the houses feel, even your school catchments are totally different. Even though you're in the same suburb, you get different school catchments. There's so many different factors that go into that, and being able to correctly price what a property is worth, taking all the evidence in, but then factoring in, okay, how much is it worth that this property's on a busy road? How much is it worth that this property's on the other side of the suburb that has a different school catchments? And being able to put a dollar figure on those little differences is probably the main thing that a lot of buyers miss.
That is actually so interesting. I recently just found out about that school thing and why people want to get into certain suburbs, because that was, that blew my mind, because we don't have that back home.
Not really.
Is that same with private schools as well?
No, so private schools don't have immediate catchment areas. They just have a fee that you have to pay to go to the school.
Yeah.
Whereas public schools, obviously, free to attend.
Yeah.
But you have to live in the area.
Yeah. What do you reckon is the most famous suburb people want to get into in Perth right now?
Cottesloe.
Yeah.
Cottesloe City Beach is where a lot of people are trying to push to. Of course, you've got the western suburbs, Peppermint Grove, Dalkeith, but that's a lot of older money.
Okay.
A lot of younger people and people that have made a lot of money all trying to move into Cottesloe City Beach.
Now, I don't know how much knowledge you would have around FIRB, which is foreign investment fees, or foreign transfer duties even. Do you have a lot of knowledge around that?
Yeah, so my understanding with that is it's an extra 7% fee that government charges. Obviously, there's the restrictions on for buyers being able to buy from 2025 to 2027.
Yeah.
But what that 7% is on the dutiable value. So if that's you're buying a house and land package and you've got separate contracts for the house and separate contracts for the land, that's 7% that you would have to pay on the land, because that's what you're purchasing. The house is then deemed as a product. If you buy, that's pretty important, because if you buy a house and land package together from the same developer or same builder, then you have to pay duty on that entire amount.
Oh, okay.
So say you buy a house and land package, 500k for the house, 500k for the land, you only have to pay the 7% on the 500k land component.
Yeah.
But if you buy a package for $1 million total, then you have to pay 7% on that $1 million.
Yeah. Well, there is a lot of house and land packages going on.
Where developers are buying the land and then selling it as an entire package.
Yeah.
Is quite common at the moment for a lot of people developing land.
Also, because, you know, we're focusing on visa holders, I did read that if there is people that are coming on PR, if you're getting into, you know, direct entry to Australia or whatever, you're not actually considered as a permanent resident if you haven't been in Australia for 200 days.
Wow.
Which was quite interesting to me. I didn't know that. I thought if you already have the visa, you're already a permanent resident. But apparently you had to have been, you know, in this land already for 200 days. Okay, you deal quite a lot with off-market properties. Like you said yourself, you made quite good investments, you know, you have such a good advantage to get into them. Tell us more about off-market and how can people get access to them?
Yeah, so what an off-market is a property that's not advertised on realestate.com, Rewa, any of the normal advertising routes. How I get access to a lot of these properties and get access to a lot of these properties early is when you go to sell your property, you're speaking to a real estate agent, you're probably not listing your property for another 3 to 4 months. I've built up very good relationships with these selling agents that when they list these properties and they have something coming up in 2, 3, 4 months, they will tell me about it.
Okay.
And say, this will sit in this sort of price range, this is what the seller situation is, this is what they're chasing, this is what they need to do. If you need to buy and sell in the same transaction, you've got some sort of needs for selling the property early, they need to get the property ready. Everybody's got a price early, it's about what that price is. So I will see a huge number of off-market properties and filter through them from if there's deceased estates, divorces, they just want to upgrade, they're selling an investment property, that I'll be able to analyse what we're able to purchase that property for and where that value actually sits. And if we're able to purchase that for a better price than I think it will go for when it goes to market, then that's what we do. We make that transaction happen. Whether that's, a lot of the time it has to be flexible settlement conditions. So say you're upgrading from $1 million property and you want to go buy a $1.8 million property. You've bought something, you've spent 1.8, you've now got 45 days to sell your property. I come in, save the day, hey, here's an offer that settles on the exact day that you need it to settle on, but it's maybe a little bit cheaper than what you're hoping for, fixes your problems, you don't have to stress about it, you don't have now 30 days to sell your property. That's a lot of what we do, is just connecting the dots for a lot of people, that it's a bit of a win-win for the sellers and the buyers in the same situation, but in that we're able to obviously pinpoint and pick and choose where the value is for a lot of these properties, because it is direct negotiations. It's not we're 1 in 100. Yeah.
And if there is someone right now who's listening and they're like, oh my God, I want to know all about off-market properties, where do they only can get those offers from all the buyers agents, or is there like a website for them, or?
No, no. If there was a website, it wouldn't be.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah, yeah. So that can be difficult to get. It really just comes from having really great relationships with the agents in the areas. Like, they're probably not going to tell you if you just say, hey, can you give me some off markets?
Yeah.
And that's just come from me doing a lot of transactions with these people that are selling these properties. That's when I say, hey mate, I've got 10 buyers looking for X, Y, and Z. Do you have anything that could match? They're like, oh, okay, I'm working on this one over here. Catch up with them once every 2 weeks or so. Just go through what they're working on, what I'm working on, and try and connect those dots easily. And that's why it is difficult for the general public to get access to those properties, because they're only buying one property. Whereas I'll do multiple transactions with that selling agent.
Yeah.
And my job's really just to make their job as easy as possible.
Yeah. What does someone need personality-wise to become a buyer's agent?
You need to be confident. You need to be educated in what you're talking about. And you need to have a little bit of backbone as well. I've seen a few buyer's agents come in and they're very gentle personalities, which is great. But when it comes time for push and shove, and you need to stick up for your client or yourself even in some transactions, then it does take a little bit of tailbone. And that's something that a lot of buyer's agents have had to overcome at early stages in their dealings, is to know when to enforce themselves a little bit. But yes, it really just comes back to being educated in what you're doing, having a little bit of hustle for what you do, because it's not easy getting started in these sort of industries. You do have to do the lead calls, you do have to do the agent calls, you have to get on the ground, go and inspect a lot of properties and do all the groundwork to get your understanding. Because when I started out, I didn't know anything about the properties, kind of bullshitted my way through it.
Yeah. So there's literally almost no training at all. You had to learn everything yourself in the hard way, or?
I was pretty fortunate that the company that I started in, they were already in operation for 5 years, and the people I was surrounded with had a lot of experience doing the things I was doing. A lot of buyers agents out there start their own brands and don't have that support network. That I did get thrown into the deep end. Got given 5 clients in my second week at the company, and I had no idea what I was doing. But in that, if I made a mistake or wasn't sure about anything, I had the people around me to be able to ask those questions. And if you can build those support networks or get into a company that is already established, that's the best way to learn and just see how the process goes from start to finish.
What is your secret weapon to get those good relationships with the real estate agents and sellers agents?
Best thing you can do is do a deal with them. Because when I was obviously starting out, I was kind of leveraging the relationships of the other buyers agents in the office. So I would say, hey, this is Boston from this company. I work with this person. And they were like, oh, yeah, how are they going? Yep, awesome. Introduction to that selling agent. But the thing that's really built those relationships and allowed me to get the access to properties and get the insights that I now have is really just doing deals with them. And it took a lot of groundwork to get those early deals done. But now I've bought numerous properties off of a lot of them, and they know that I buy a lot of properties off of other selling agents. They then want to have that strong relationship with me. And then they give me that sort of disclosure and insights that I need to be able to provide value to my clients.
Is it hard for you to switch off after a work day?
100%. It's a 24/7 job, and that's something I've had to find. The first 18 months in this role, I just went hammer and tong, work 7 days a week, 24 hours. Extremely hard to switch off, because even whilst we're sitting here, I've probably got 100 text messages, a few missed calls probably, but it is very difficult to switch off. I'm fortunate that at our company we have now a lot of buyers agents that what I will do is I'll work 24/7 for 6 months, and then I will go overseas for a month.
Okay.
And go on holiday, and that allows me to actually switch off. I've done a couple of week and 2 week holidays and never actually switched off. Still been trying to do deals whilst I'm away. But going away for a month, letting the other buyers agents, working with my clients whilst I'm away, best thing I can do, because I come back and I'm mentally refreshed and able to actually do my job well, because you get burnt out very quickly.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. Yeah. If there is someone who is thinking about starting to work in that field, what advice would you give to them?
Yep. Best advice would be try and work under someone that is experienced, and try and ask them as many questions as you can, because that's the best thing you can do, is just ask questions and try and see how someone that's been successful in the field goes about their day. Because at the start, if you're just trying to figure it out yourself, you'll just come up with solutions, do trial and error, which is great. But to fast track that process, if there's someone that's already got the blueprints, may as well just ask to look at the blueprints. And that's the best way for people getting started in real estate, selling, buying. Try and get into the right teams and be surrounded by the right people, but also be very prepared to learn and very prepared to work, because you're never too experienced to stop learning.
I love that. Is it hard for you to, when you started out, I'd imagine like you were sort of, taking all that information in, but now when you sort of have gotten your, head in and you're like sort of built up your own finances, do you sometimes feel like there is a moment where your own ego stops you from going forward?
100%. And that's something I've had to be very conscious of. And it's a real learning curve as you grow and as you get better. You think, oh, I'm pretty good at what I do. But there are people doing better than me, doing more than me, or providing a better service. And no matter what stage I get to, I'm always pretty conscious, especially when I go away and I actually get to be in my own head, that I've always got ways to go and ways to improve and ways to do things I do better and different processes to take on and different people to learn from. There's people in my company that do a lot of things that I really envy and that I really admire, and it's just taking pieces from other people's lives, other people's processes to best be able to fit your own situation and have your own strategies and have your own personality, I guess. But no, yeah, it's pretty important to never stop learning at any point of whatever you do.
On your Instagram, you posted quite a lot of like sort of short form, like interview ways, like explaining all the processes and, you know, sharing off market property pictures as well. Why is it important for you to keep doing social media in that way?
Yeah, it's building my brand. And social media is something I'm trying to get better at. Not something that probably comes naturally to me. And trying to get better at that is something that I've really been working on, is just regularity of posts, post quality, having different sort of content, providing information to a lot of people that if I have a phone call or if I meet someone or speak to someone, they're immediately Google searching my name and then they see all the videos on the Instagram, they see the followers, they see the posts. That's the reputation that they then take and they then go home with. They also search up the company and then see all the reviews, and that's what I'll do. If I spoke to someone and they were like, yeah, you need a buyer's agent, you should come and work with me, I would immediately Google search them, Google search the company. I'll do all of that research before I spoke to them again. And that's why that side's pretty important, but also exposure. I've had a lot of people message me just on Instagram that I've never met that have seen the content and sign up and become clients. So that's pretty important to get that out there and get that reputation up.
Yeah. Because you've pretty much always been in sales and you've gone through all the mud yourself, what is something like do you have like a sales tactic that if you see it, you're like, oh my God, please stop?
Oh, you get people that are very salesy in how they go about things, and because I've studied all of the sales tactics, everything like that, I pick up on it very quickly. If someone's trying to persuade me or trying to do specific things, you do just pick up on it very quickly. There's a lot of different tactics that would probably be pretty difficult to explain. But yeah, even like one of my old sales managers would constantly be like trying to sell me, trying to like push me harder, do all of these things, and like give me like these inspirational chats, and it's like, come on, man, like we're doing the same thing here. We both know what's going on here, but that's really what I try to stay away from. I'm try to be very non-salesy. And just be quite, especially in my role, I try to be quite personable and quite understanding, because in these situations it's such large decisions that if I can just be a calm piece in the situation, that's really what people want and what people need, is just someone that's confident in what they're going about and calm in what they're going about. I don't ever want to pressure sales someone to be like, yeah, you need to sign up, you need to sign today, like this is what you need to do, and then they sign and they're like, oh, not sure we actually want to work with him. That's the last thing that I want, because I have to constantly sell myself. It's not a quick transaction. It's sign up to work with me, and then we might be working together for a month, 2 months, 3 months before we actually find the right home for you. If I force someone to come on as a client, it's not going to be a good experience for me. It's not going to be a good experience for them.
Yeah. How do sales help and sales skills help you, do you reckon?
Helps a lot with confidence, helps a lot with conversation, helps a lot with everything in life. I think that no matter what you're doing in life, if you want to do well at what you're doing, it takes some level of sales skills and some level of communication abilities and some level of understanding psychology, basically.
Yeah.
Even in an average job, if you're pushing for a promotion, anything like that, you're basically trying to sell your services and trying to sell why they should pay you more money. Even though you're not directly selling anything, you're not directly selling a product, you're still using sales skills and trying to use those attributes and skills you've learnt over your time to be able to persuade someone. Essentially what it is persuasion tactics and different psychology understandings and body language reading, everything like that. So I think that getting a surface level understanding, but also a deeper level understanding of what works, what doesn't work, why it works, I find that very interesting.
Yeah. Oh my God. I could go so deep into that. Do you think Gen Z now, where we're moving, and although I would say like in Australia, I think most of the young people wouldn't be that much in the markets. I would say like most of the money in Australia is still owned by like 50 plus, 60 plus aged people. But what do you think, like, do you change your tactics compared to what age people are?
I change it person by person.
Yeah.
You have to be very adaptable to all different types of people. And if you're speaking with a 60-year-old that has 20 properties and they live in Dalkeith, the approach and conversation is going to be totally different to one of my mates I went to school with. I'm helping buying a first property.
Yeah.
The conversation, the way they structure, everything is going to change completely. And that's a real skill in sales, is to be able to read a person very quickly. That's probably the biggest learning curve for a lot of people, is you actually have to read those people in such a short amount of time. Because say, for example, someone worth $100 million, they don't want to sit there talking to you for 15 minutes about how everything's going.
Yeah.
They don't want to talk to you about what my opinions are on the property market. It's, you've got 3 minutes to tell me why I should use your services, what's going on, how I got to buy it, what's next. You've got to do it super quickly.
Yeah.
And that was a tough thing for me, because I'm usually dealing with home buyers, they're upgrading and buying their forever home. They want to talk for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And they want to know everything about the street, know everything about proximity. It's just very personality dependent, and getting that read at a very early stage, but also being adaptable to that, because of course still being yourself, but you don't want to have the same pitch to a bloke who works FIFO.
Yeah.
He's back in the country 1 week out of every 3.
Yeah.
And comparative to a young couple that has 2 kids, they're upgrading their primary place of residence. It's totally different situations, totally different needs, and totally different personality matches and ways to be treated. So like, some people want me to send them 100 properties and they get to go through every single night, go through a list and be like, oh, like this one, like this one, like this one. And then I have people that they only want me to speak to them when I've got a property that's worth them buying.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you keep calm and sort of, I'd imagine like you said, if you are speaking and you have to present to someone whose net worth is 100 mil, and you know that you have to be very quick and confident, because you're quite young yourself. How do you stay grounded in those situations? Do you have sort of like a ritual or something that you do?
It's more just a mindset that I used to get super nervous going into appointments, because I would care so much about, like, they needed to sign up, like it was the end of the world. But it's having an abundance mentality that this isn't going to be the last person I speak to. This isn't going to be the last deal that hits the table. This isn't going to be the last property that we get to look at. There's other properties, there's other buyers, there's other people out there with 100 million net worth. But it's just being confident in that, but also having that mindset that everything's going to be okay. It's not the end of the world. Doesn't go perfectly. Don't sign up the client. Is what it is. Move on to the next one. And just having as many conversations and as many introductions as you can. Early stages, my strike rate was very low. But that strike rate increases, and you speak with less people, convert more. And that's how it goes and how it progresses. But I'm still never going to convert 100% of people. There'll be people out there that will never use a buyer's agent, and it's not worth my time to try and combat that.
Yeah.
Basically.
Is there anything that we haven't talked about today that you would like to get out there?
I think we've covered off pretty well.
Yeah.
A lot of topics.
Where I will put your Instagram down below if anyone does want to get in contact with you. I would suggest to follow him on Instagram if you are someone who is thinking of buying a home soon, because you do you know, you guys do talk a lot about like the theoretical stuff and like what actually goes on, and also to see off-market properties. So if you have any questions, check the link below, and I'm sure that everybody sent in DMs, so then we can we'll just like flood your
Flood
not
my
that you're
DMs. Yeah. I'll do voice message replies.
Okay, well, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate it. I think it's been such a valuable time with you here today. And thank you for listening and watching. Until next one.
Thanks so much. Yeah.
Thank you if you've been with me since the beginning. And if you haven't, please make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. It really helps me to spread this podcast to everyone who might find this useful. I'm so excited that you're here, and if you like this episode, please share it with someone you know. Thank you.